Hey guys, I just wanted to make another video. It seems like it's been a couple of days. I wanted to make a video a little bit about unrealistic thoughts. One of the reasons I say that is because it's so common when we have anxiety stemming from tinnitus that we have some unrealistic thoughts where really just to put it plainly, we think things that just simply are not true. We jump to conclusions. So it's important to somehow be able to be like another person looking in at you and being able to sort of analyze, are these thoughts that I'm having true? Am I jumping to conclusions? Am I thinking something that's way more than maybe what it is? So let me give you some examples of what happened to me, so you can get a feeling for. I hopefully seem to you like a pretty normal person now, but when I was first struck with some massive anxiety and tinnitus together at the same time, I had some thoughts that just weren't correct. When I first got tinnitus and also had COVID at the same time, I believed that I was alone and no one could help me. And I had to somehow solve this problem myself. And I thought there was something wrong with something going on in here, maybe my heart or something. And I got one of those monitoring devices where it monitors your blood oxygen level, and also your pulse rate. And I stayed awake and watched my blood oxygen level, and I thought sometimes it was getting a little low. And then I fell asleep, but then the thing fell off my hand, or it changed position, making it look like my blood oxygen level was low. And then I became afraid that if I fell asleep, my blood oxygen level might get too low. So I literally thought that if I fell asleep, I might die. So that's crazy. It's crazy. I believed that. So the first 5 days of having COVID, I thought that I had to somehow save myself. And I went to the emergency room and stuff, and they told me that I was okay, but I didn't believe them. And I got some medication to help me calm down and stuff, but I was so just ginned up and couldn't seem to snap out of it. And after that, I started having some theories about myself that I forget the name of the condition, where if you stand up or have activity, your heart rate will get to a very high level, and it could be dangerous. So I wore this thing on my finger that kept track of my heart rate, maybe similar to like I could have just as well had a iWatch, and I was watching it all the time. And sure enough, every time I stood up, my heart rate was higher, and I thought it was getting maybe unsafely higher. So I needed to be very careful. I went to extreme measures. I laid on the ground to exercise. I'm like, okay, I got to somehow stay in shape, even though I'm afraid to stand up. And I would exercise in a laying or sitting position, but then monitor my heart rate to make sure that it didn't get too high. And there was nothing wrong with me. Probably I had a lot of anxiety, and when I stood up, I thought that my heart rate was getting too high, and I was wrong. But anxiety can cause your heart rate to get higher, right? So I was like that for a few months, and combine that with the tinnitus that I had, and I was a mess. The doctor, a couple of different times, the doctor said, "You have to get rid of this thing." I also had the blood pressure sleeve, and I would put that on, and I would pump it up and check it. Oh, it's too high. And I'd check it again 2 minutes later, and do that over and over again, and check the heart rate. And sure enough, when I'm anxious, my blood pressure is also higher. I'm so lucky, though, that actually right now, my blood pressure is awesome. Actually, I haven't checked it in the last couple of months, but it's I don't want to make it a habit of checking it like I used to. And I would just check it over and over again. It's very unrealistic. It's abnormal to do all that. And I went to the emergency room a couple of times, and I mean, they actually did find that I probably had a little bit of an enlarged heart from COVID, and I did have some sensations in here, but I'm okay, right? So, with the tinnitus, I didn't know what was wrong with me. How do you turn this thing off? And I would think about it constantly, and I thought, what's happening here? I was striving to make it go away. At the same time, make the chest pain go away. I had some joint pains, how to make that go away. And then I was constantly researching what was wrong with my ear, and does COVID cause the ear? Is it some drugs I'm taking? I also researched, and I self-diagnosed my chest with at least 3 or 4 different problems by researching on Google to find out what was wrong with my insides. And the doctors they did one MRI where they found a couple of things like a benign like cyst or something that is probably something from childhood, from when I had some kind of strep throat or something like that. And, I tuned into that. Oh my God. And there might be they said there's some slight degeneration in the spine. So, I suddenly had back pain now. Oh my God, how do I solve this problem with my back pain? So when we get in an highly anxious state, all kinds of chemistry goes through us, and it leads to some unrealistic thoughts, some just absolute fantasy. And I tell my story because I want you to see how, hopefully, you can see I'm actually really normal now, and I don't have these unrealistic thoughts. But I never in my life thought that I could have mental illness, but I did, and I did have these thoughts, and I feel a little embarrassed to tell you, but I think it's good to tell your story and get it out of you instead of holding it in. A lot of times, anxiety is also teamed up with some ideas we have in our head. Maybe there's something with your relationship, or with your spouse, or your children, or your sexuality, where something's kind of bothered you for a long, long time. And that sort of can team up with your anxiety too. And you feel like things are hopeless and there's no solution to these problems. So you have to get it out sometimes. And that can take some time. That last part, that's better for another video. Just about addressing some maybe long-term issues you've had in your life that you might need to try to solve, because that you can put that aside for later. But if you can look at these thoughts as a third person, is this really true, what I'm thinking? Like with your tinnitus, do you have some ideas that might be there's something more wrong than just it being a sound in your ear? Like I remember I had the clicking sound in my ear, and I can still make it happen now sometimes. And when I jump up and down, I get a pop, 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 and my ear would get clogged up sometimes. And these things I would research, and I maybe have something going on with my brain or my ear or my whole system in here. There's something really awful going on. But the fact is, there's nothing wrong other than I do have this sound in my ear. So I think it's important, if you feel like you may be having some extreme thoughts, that you talk to somebody about it. And if the doctor can diagnose you and tell you there really isn't anything wrong with you, you do have the sound. But besides that, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. You can move on. You can move on with your life now. You're okay. You just have the sound. And you can do things like sounds in the background to mask it. You're allowed to not worry about it. Because I've done many videos about this in the past, as you don't worry about it, it's not so focal in your mind anymore. It's not such a focal point. So but if you have these, these unrealistic, you can have unrealistic thoughts that say, I don't think I can live a normal life with this sound. Yet there are millions and millions of people who do. And you can too. And you can get where you don't notice it so much anymore. You can do things like the masking, maybe you even need some hearing aids that have a background noise, or, you can just get where you're able to divert your attention much better. You can be able to get where, even though you hear the sound, just like when there's other sounds around you, it's like you're not always thinking about that sound. It's just there. And you can go on and think about other things, and you don't have to worry about it. But I know what we do. We worry about it too much, right? So anyways, I shared a lot there about myself, and, maybe you have some things like that too. I don't know. But think about that. Think about, are there some things that maybe are not true that you've been telling yourself over and over again? Maybe you can let that go now and realize you've gone for a while now and you're actually okay still. So, okay. Well, that's my video for today, and I'll talk to you next time. I'll see you. Bye-bye.